What is up, everybody? So, spring is finally coming, and I'm so excited. This has been so cold and windy where I live, but the trees are finally starting to get little buds on them, so I'm thinking it'll be like a matter of weeks until we get flowers where I live. So, I'm pretty stoked about it. So, today I'm doing a digital art study in Rebelle 7 Pro of some cheery pink and yellow lupine flowers. And I'll be breaking down my process for that. So, some of the things I'll be covering will include some basics on how to use reference images, layer blending modes, and selective blur filters in Rebelle 7. To start, I've created a 12 by 18-inch document here. I took some reference photos on my phone that I've preloaded over here on the left already. But if you're using Rebelle and you don't have the reference image panel anywhere, you can come up to the window menu up here and then find reference images. Just make sure that's checked and your box reference images panel will pop up somewhere. To import a new reference image in this panel, you go down and click this icon at the bottom here, and that'll open up your file navigator for you where you can select pics from your computer. But say you accidentally uploaded one you don't want, well, you can select the photo you don't want in your panel and then click this minus symbol at the bottom right to remove it. Once you have those uploaded, on each one you'll see eyeball icons with an X through them. That means they aren't open or visible right now. But if you click one, that icon will disappear off the image and the image will pop up. The new reference image panel that pops up has a bunch of new icons and options. I'll quickly go over a couple of the ones I might be using in this video. This eyeball icon right here will kind of project your reference photo onto your canvas. See? So I can see my main reference over here now, and this feature might help out with your planning of your composition or when you're trying to break down shapes a little more easily. So say I have the projection up and I'm like, hey, I want to scoot this around or change the size. So there's this move tool over here for that, and that one looks like an X with arrows on the corners. So you click that and then you can move or transform the reference in the projection. See? I can click and drag the corners to resize in proportion. Now, if you click and drag the top or side handles, though, it won't keep proportion, so just keep that in mind. You can also rotate your projection by hovering off the corner circles a bit, like the corner handles, and then you'll see this new kind of swirling arrow icon pop up. While that new icon is there, click and hold, and as you move it around, it'll rotate the image for you. And lastly, there's also two triangle-looking buttons that will flip your reference vertically or horizontally in both the mini panel and the projection. Okay, and I'm gonna just rotate this a smidge, and there we go. I'll leave the projection for that one, but close my mini window. So now I'm gonna kind of play with planning my composition using my other references. So the cool thing is that you can project more than one image onto the canvas at a time. I have this flower that's zoomed in closer I want to use. I'll go ahead and project that one too, and I want to change the size, so I'll click the transform icon and click and drag the corner. You know what? I think I'm gonna flip my base reference back to the other way. So I'm gonna close this one and reopen the other one and turn off the flip I did before. Maybe about there? Okay, now back to the zoomed in one. I think I kind of want it in the front, like a third to the left. Yeah, about there. I'll get started on my sketching now. The paper canvas I'm using today is the X25 Hemp Smooth Texture set to white. I like the natural texture of that one for this study. I'm going to use a pencil for my sketch, so I already have the pencil selected under the Tools tab, and then I'm going under the Brushes tab to select my actual pencil. So let's go with a 2B today. So in pencils, H stands for hard and B stands for blackness. So a 2B is a little blacker. So this one will be good for what I'm trying to do. You know what? Quick adjustment. I want the tops of my flowers to come down some. So let's reopen that reference and scoot it down a little. Maybe like there. So I'm just blocking some rough shapes in. And I want that other zoomed in flower, so let me hide the other ones and project that one. What did I say? I wanted that like here. You know what? I want my references panel to go over here. Get over there. Get out of here. I just wanted like a little more space over by my brushes and stuff. I'm gonna adjust some of the shape positions with the lasso selection tool. I'll keep adjusting and scooting things around until I'm happy with the layout. See, so I'm just using my references for some guidance. It's not important to me that it be exactly like the photos one to one. Now I'm gonna sketch my petal shapes in. What's cool about lupines to me is that the petals sort of make these like butterfly wing shapes that are super pretty. Like the little separate clumps. It just looks like it's covered in a bunch of multicolored butterflies to me. To help give myself a guide of where the petal rows are, I'm going to put some horizontal marks down the stem and build my petal shapes off of those. This is a helpful way to approach any kind of tall stalk flower, really, like not just lupins. So could be like snapdragons, gladiolus, and any of those types of flowers. So if you're trying to keep some of the individual petal shapes in there with line work, it helps drawing them feel like a little less overwhelming, I think, breaking them down into like rows or pieces. I'm going to swap to the eraser and just clean stuff up a little bit before we go on to the next step. Okay, I'm going to rename my layer here to base sketch, and I'm going to lock it. And I'm going to start blocking in guide color with watercolors, and then I'll put details in with acrylic brushes. So I'm making a new layer for my watercolor washes here, and I'm going to have that layer below my sketch layer. I am selecting my watercolor brush from my tools panel, and I'm going to go with the wash round brush, I think. Now, you can pick colors directly from your reference photos with the reference photo panel eyedropper button there, like this. I click that icon in the panel, then select a color, and when I check my colors wheel, it's that color that I just picked. I highly recommend that if you do pull directly from your reference images, that you adjust your colors some in your color wheel, because the color picker won't always quite be what you're looking for or match what your eye is seeing. So I normally saturate a bit more and adjust the brightness or darkness within the wheel further. I might also do a little hue shift too, depending on what kind of vibe or mood that I'm going for. So that yellow looks all right. I'll start with the lighter yellow as my first wash for these. So that yellow. And now I'm going to select my pink from the reference and adjust the color some, then kind of plop in the pink petal areas. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the greens for the leaves. And now a fun little part, we're going to set a layer blending mode on our pencil sketch layer so the lines aren't just gray anymore. So you come over here to the layers panel, we'll select the pencil based sketch layer, make sure it is not locked, and then come up here to this drop down box that's to the right of the pigment section, and you click that and select subtract. So in this particular art piece, that blend mode is making our light pencil lines darker and take on some hues from our wash. And I'll pop on those green tops, and I want to darken up some areas here now, get some more contrast in there. the sky, I'm going to make a separate layer. So I'm going to lock this flowers background wash layer and make another layer underneath that. Then we'll put some blue washes for the sky in. I want to include the background foliage into the back, but I don't want it to be as sharp as it is in the reference. So I'm going to make it a little bluer to kind of imply it's a little more distance away. And I don't want details in those tree shapes to take attention away from the flowers. And now I'm using the eraser to tidy up a little. And now for the final stage of acrylics, I'm going to make a new layer and have it above my sketch layer. I'm going to be painting over top, and the sketch and the underwash can show through a little bit. I'm selecting the oils and acrylics tool, and then I'll hop over to the brushes. I think I'll do the soft round for the petals. And for pretty much all of the acrylic paint section, I have my brush property type set to paint and blend. I'm starting with a mid-tone pink color and laying that down on the pink petal areas, playing into the peachy vibe. And now a golden midtone for the yellow flower petals. And on to darker tones to show shadows for the pink ones. And then a lighter pink for the highlights. And I'm going a little more of a cool pink, not as peachy for the highlights for those. And then onto the extra bright highlights. I went even lighter. I'm trying to catch the brim lighting I see in the reference, that like on the edges. I'm keeping this artwork kind of sketchy, so don't mind if my lines here aren't perfect or a little messy. And then I repeat that highlights process with the yellow petals. The green tops are also showing strong rim light, so I'm going to use a bright light yellow for that. And I'll use the same color to add some rim light around the flower stalk shapes as a whole. Then on to adding more contrast to the tops with shadows and highlights. switching to dark color to help bring some petal shapes forward a bit with some outlines and to darken up those stems. And some lighter color blending on the stems going up towards the green tops. Now to add more depth to these poor neglected greens of the background. I'm doing the same thing I did with the petals, so doing the darks and then adding in lights and highlights. And I'm also adding some bits of sky poking through the distant back trees. And finally, to give some extra pop, I'm adding some extra light highlights here and there on the petals. I also want to darken the green tops a bit. So I'm doing this by making a new layer on top and using the lasso selection tool to make shapes over the tops, and then filling those in with a darker green. Then I set the layer blend mode for this new layer to multiply, and then make the layer more transparent with the layer opacity slider until I get the shadow that I want. To get those highlight spots back a little, I'm just going to use an eraser on that layer over the highlights. So you can see the difference with and without when I hide the layer here. I am almost done here, but I still want to help create a bigger sense of depth by blurring the flowers in the background so it feels more like we're focusing on the foreground ones. I don't want to mess up my layers in case I wanted to edit them later, so what I'm going to do is do the selective blurring on a separate flattened layer. But let's make all our current layers into a group. I'm gonna select the layers I want to group into a folder. So if the layers you want to group are all next to each other, you can do this by selecting the highest one that you want, holding Shift, and then clicking the lowest one that you want to select. Then they'll all be highlighted. So then hop down to the group layers folder icon and click it. That'll create a new group with all your layers in it, and you can rename it to whatever you want. Now I'm going to copy this entire group so I can flatten it. So right click it, then select duplicate layer, and the whole group will copy. So now we have two folders. So I'm going to turn off visibility for the bottom one and then lock it. So that one is going to be all our backup working layers in case we mess something up. Now this top one, I'm going to combine it all into one single image so it's easier for me to do edits on. So right click that and then click merge layers. Now it's all flattened. I don't know why the metallic button turned on that little gem icon. I'll turn that off. Now we're going to do some blurring on this merge single layer. I'm going to do some selective blur filtering using the lasso selection tool. So in tools, I chose the selection tool. So I'm going to use the lasso and trace around these couple that are furthest back first. I have the one section already selected, and to select another area at the same time so it doesn't deselect the first area, you can hold Shift and draw around the next spot, and then release. Then holding Shift again and do another section. I'm going to put on the blur filter, and you can find blur filters up in the top menu under filter, and I'm going to be selecting Gaussian blur for this. I have the preview on so I can see the effect real time. I want these back ones pretty blurry. I don't want much focus on them. 23 seems good. No. I'm gonna go back and bump that up to like 31. I want it a little bit blurrier even than I have it. I'm gonna do the same thing, but with those two mid-ground flower stalks. So select them, then blur, but I won't blur them quite as much as the back row. And then a little bit of cleanup with the smudge tool. And I want a smidge more contrast, so I'm going to make a non-destructive filter layer real quick from down here, and let's bump up that slider just a touch. And now it's time to add a cute little bee in to make things feel lively. I lucked out and got a great reference picture of a bee on the same day that I saw the lupine, so I wanted to include it in this artwork. So I'm going to make a new bee layer on top. And open up my bee reference photo. I'm projecting it to get a visual for where I want the placement, and then I'll block him in with some sketch. Okay, now that I got him in the spot that I want, I'll do a rough paint of him with the acrylic brush. He's so cute. I'll group the bee layers up some so I can move him easily if I want to later. And now for the final touch, to make things feel alive and a little magical, I'm gonna add some floaties. So they could maybe be pollen or dust or other tiny bugs. So new layer above the bee layer, and I'm gonna put some light yellow dots with the round hard acrylic brush. So I'm switching brushes here. And I'm gonna do some selective blur on some of them so they get depth of field too. Some others can stay crisp, but they're in the foreground. So I'm gonna do that the same way that I blurred the flowers before. All right, I'm gonna call that finished now. I'm pretty excited for spring. I'm looking forward to seeing more flowers. Let me know what your favorite flower is in the comments below. If you have a particular one that you love painting, if you know of any beautiful stock flowers.